morning, everyone. Welcome to the webinar From Magnesium to Steel. This is the topic of today, navigating shifts in critical raw materials and global supply chains. Raw materials are essential for the sustainable and solid functioning of Europe's industries. However, there are signals from companies and also from clusters that the war that Russia has started in Ukraine affected the raw materials production and trade. Among the sectors affected, I can mention construction, renewable energy devices, to name but a few. But anyway, this is the context in which the European Clusters Collaboration Platform, on behalf of the European Commission, DG GROW, has organized this seminar. And we will try today to, first of all, identify those varied disruptions in European supply chain related to raw materials, as well as look for possible solutions and actions from the policy and industry side. The event is part of the bi-weekly online meetings, as you all know, and my name is 𝗬𝗂𝘂𝘀𝗁𝗍𝗂𝗧. I'm going to be your presenter today. The seminar will last approximately an hour, and let me look at the agenda and get you introduced to the agenda of today. We will hear some news from the European Cluster Collaboration Platform. We will see practical examples of what's being done on the ground. We will have a keynote presentation of Maria Nieber, who is policy officer at DG GROW, and we will have a panel debate with three interesting speakers. We will also present funding opportunities, and that's it. Let me introduce you to the housekeeping rules as well. Do use the chat function to comment or to share links. And also you can use the Q&A function to ask questions. Whenever you're not speaking, which is most of the time, do keep your microphone muted. But if you want to ask a question live, you can raise your hand, take the floor, and then you have to unmute yourself, obviously. If you like to be on video, do ask us to activate your camera. And also do note that this session is being recorded. So these are the housekeeping rules. And let's move on to the news from the European Cluster Collaboration Platform. And this will be presented by the member of the European Cluster Collaboration Platform, Nina Hopman. Nina, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, 𝗬𝗂𝘂𝘀𝗀𝗍𝗂, and welcome everybody to the EU Clusters talk today. We have some news to share from the European Cluster Collaboration Platform. First of all, we would like to inform you that the European Cluster Collaboration Platform, on behalf of the European Commission in collaboration with the EN, ran a survey in March and April on identifying disruptions in value and supply chains. And the report on this survey has been published. It shows the results of the survey to understand the current reality and disruptions and the chains, and to look for approaches to find solutions. And you can find it in the document library on the European Cluster Collaboration Platform. My colleague will put the link in the chat. Then there's an open call for expression of interest to host the next Clusters Meet Regions workshops, which can be hosted in the second half of 2022 and in 2023. These are events for national and regional clusters policymakers to come together to share experiences, to secure new partnerships, and to learn from one another, and to see how we can make good use of clusters to strengthen our industrial ecosystems, to address disruptions, and to support the green digital transition, and to build resilience. The open call for expression of interest can be found on the ECCP, and the first cutoff will be on the 29th of July, and you will find the documentation there of what needs to be submitted to express your interest to host such a workshop in your region. And last but not least, we have the EU Singapore matchmaking event that we would like to announce. It takes place from the 18th until the 20th of October in Singapore, and there are two calls for expression of interest open. one for a European delegation made up of European cluster representatives from various industries that are willing and committed to participate in the matchmaking event. And there's a call for small and medium-sized enterprises from the EU and from non-EU COSME countries who wish to participate in the matchmaking, also in various sectors. And the deadline to apply for this is the 30th of June. So hopefully this is interesting for you and you can have a look at these open calls. Thank you, and back to you, 𝗬𝗂𝘂𝗀𝗄.
Thank you so much, Nina, for sharing all these news. This was more or less theoretical information. Let's delve into something more practical and see what is being done on the ground.
Welcome to Monolithos laboratory premises. I'm 𝗯𝗶-𝘄𝗲𝗿𝘀, I'm head of Research and Innovation Department of Monolithos, and we will give you an insight in recycling technologies of Monolithos.
Monolithos is an industrial SME manufacturing and recycling automotive catalytic converters and other spare parts of commercial vehicles. It has a widely established commercial network covering the whole Greek territory and has expanded to Germany, Cyprus, and the Czech Republic. Our main premises include an area of 1,500 square meters for commercial activities, as well as research and development, employing a total of 25 people. Besides the commercial sector, Monolithos is very active in R&D, with over 20 projects in the respective fields, resulting in patenting and upscaling 4 of our novel technologies and producing 16 peer-reviewed publications. So Monolithos possesses a network of more than 50 collaborators through its projects, including some of the largest companies worldwide.
The process offered distinct advantages over the state-of-the-art, such as flexibility in the installation and operation, environmental friendliness, and high cost efficiency. Besides the European Union market, this was also recognized by the United Kingdom industrial stakeholders, giving the first prize to Monolithos recycling technology in a recent innovation competition. The 𝗪𝗋 project is a collaboration between 3 European companies and aims to utilize our novel recycling process to exploit the potential of mining tailings, treating them as a valuable source for recovering platinum and rare earth elements. In this way, we can contribute to the aim of the European Commission to create an industrial symbiosis according to circular economy principles. Monolithos has already received mining tailing samples which were milled, sieved and analyzed using the calibrated XRF and 𝗪𝗔 analyzers. The powdered samples are treated using the leaching process and then filtration was performed to separate the solid phase and recover the platinum.
The EU is facing a supply risk in PGMs and rare earth elements, which have been characterized as critical materials, with their demand for end-use applications exceeding their supply volume. So the weak point is that there are no primary production sites of these elements in Europe, making us entirely dependent on imports. In parallel, these elements are widely utilized in everyday life applications, resulting in tremendous increase in their prices and their criticality index for the EU. Mind the Gap provides a holistic approach to address this issue, with breakthrough innovations across the whole critical raw materials value chain. And 𝗪𝗋 is a solid part of this and will contribute to the securement of the supply chain of platinum and rare earth elements, easing the EU in economic dependencies. The industrialization of 𝗪𝗋 will result in the production of 200 tons of critical materials per year. And that means a significant supply for applications such as automotive catalysts, electronics, renewable energy devices, and many more. The corresponding production is valued at more than 50 million euros annually, paving the way for profitable business for Monolithos and the prosperity of the EU ecosystem through the achievement of the EU Green Deal goals.
Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more 𝗪𝗋 news and Monolithos technologies.
Do stay tuned for more news, and this was the news that we wanted to share with you today from our own correspondent. And without much further ado, we will move now to the keynote of today, on EU policy securing the supply of critical raw materials and resilient value chains in transition. And that will be presented by Maria Nyberg, who is Policy Officer at Directorate General for Internal Market, Industry, Entrepreneurship and SMEs. Maria, we are all ears. Welcome. The floor is yours. Thank you for joining.
Thank you very much, 𝗬𝗂𝘂, and good morning to you all. I hope you hear and see me well, and if I can get some help with sharing the slides, please. Thank you very much. Yes, excellent introduction from Monolithos, raising a couple of points that I will also touch upon. What is clear is that the importance of securing access to resilient and sustainable raw materials has been reflected at the very highest level by the EU in the past months. If we go to the next slide, please. Thank you. At the European Council summit in March in Versailles and in Brussels, EU leaders reaffirmed the need to make the single market and Europe's economic base more resilient, competitive, and fit for the green and digital transition, and called on the institutions to reduce the strategic dependencies, including of critical raw materials. And EU leaders asked for increased efforts by means of strategic partnerships with like-minded countries, exploring strategic stockpiling and promoting higher circularity. As a response, the Commission came forward in the 𝗰𝗂𝘂𝘀 communication of 18th of May with a proposal on that we will intensify our work on the supply of critical raw materials and prepare a legislative proposal. The objective of this legislative proposal will be to strengthen the EU monitoring capacity, reinforce European value chain through the identification of mineral resources and critical raw materials projects in the EU strategic interest. And doing this, we will take high consideration to environmental protection and circularity. So I can't say that much more about the timing of this legislative initiative, neither of the exact scope. This is work in progress, but please stay tuned. We will inform as soon as possible. So the sequence of crises, shortages, disruptions of value chains and price hikes that we have witnessed over the last years has been kind of a stark reminder of how much the EU really relies on highly concentrated sources of supply in third countries. We lack, as mentioned in the video earlier, we lack domestic industrial capacities along the value.
Maria, I think we lost you. I hope that you're back with us in a second or two. Maria, can you hear us? We can neither hear you or see you. I hope that will require some reconnecting, but I hope we will fix the problem in a minute. Sorry, everybody, for all these technical inconveniences. Maria Nyberg of the European Commission has started her keynote presentation, and we will try to reconnect in a minute, and we will see if that's working for now. Maria, are you with us? I do apologize again for inconveniences, and we will now move to the panel debate and maybe get a chance to connect with Maria a little bit later. And the three wonderful speakers are with us today, and that's Konstantin Čipaja, who is head of unit at DG JRC. Good morning to you. Christina Jokelainen, founder at Smart North, is also with us. And so is Luis Martins, who is chairman of the board at the Cluster Portugal Mineral Resources. Good morning, everybody. And we will first give a minute each to present your very organization that you represent. And this will also help us identify the weak parts in the chain. So maybe let's begin with you, Konstantin.
Yes, thank you, and good morning to everybody. I mean, there are so many things to say about this topic. I will start by introducing a little bit the organization I'm representing and myself. I mean, the organization is, of course, the European Commission, but as part of the European Commission, I'm representing actually the Directorate General Joint Research Center, the one that is supposed to provide science-based policy support to practically the EU institutions, but mainly to the European Commission policy DGs. We are trying with the activity of JRC, which is spread around 6 major sites within the European Union. We are trying to respond to the main and hot policy requests of coming from our partner policy DGs. And the important thing here is that one of the main priorities in the latest period is strategic going and responding to policy demand on strategic value chains and strategic supply chains of raw materials, with, let's say, a little bit of focus on the so-called critical raw materials. Whereas I would have to say I prefer to refer to strategic value chains around sensitive or critical raw materials when I refer to the type of work we are doing in support of policies. The main tool where the JRC is managing the knowledge on non-fuel, non-food raw materials, because this is exactly the part that we are referring to. So biotic and abiotic non-food, non-fuel raw materials, minerals, metals, some biotic raw materials. The knowledge we are practically presenting and trying to make it more attractive and more consistently integrated in the European Commission's raw materials information system, which is our main tool of spreading the information not only inside the Commission, but to everybody. As I mentioned, we appeared officially with this site in 2015. In the beginning of the year, we got mandated by the first Circular Economy Action Plan, and the RMIS became practically a knowledge management tool trying to support all the policies in the area of raw materials in this format proposed and maintained and further developed by the JRC. Having said that, we organize the website in 2 thematic chapters, but they are flexible. So practically from time to time, we change the component. There are more than 40 sub-chapters where the moment when you enter in each of the 12 tiles that you see even on the screen now. We have more than 1,500 stakeholders to which we send periodical information on the news concerning the content of this website. And just to give you an example, our latest new tile is related, of course, to the Ukraine crisis, to the aggression from Russia on Ukraine. So practically, we are trying to be as flexible as possible in responding to the new demand. Have to say that this flexibility and the fact that we improved with a lot of apps, so applications, dynamic applications, the content, made us practically increase 5 times till the end of last year to now the number of unique visitors perusing, so practically the raw material information system. I would dare to say that it's now becoming one of the main tools for informing stakeholders in Europe and outside Europe on what is happening in the EU on raw materials and on the policies of raw materials. And I'm saying outside EU because I have to tell you that around 30–35% of our visitors are not from the European Union or Europe. So practically, this is shortly the presentation for us. If there will be a little bit of time to talk more with all the other panelists about the hot topics of today, I think I will leave it for a later time, depending on the time. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I just wanted to double check when you say that 30% of the visitors are not from the EU, and in general, the number of visitors has increased. Have you researched what they are mostly looking for on the website, and where do they stay most?
Yes, we did. And obviously, I mean, what attracted attention recently are the 2 apps that we developed showing practically the dynamics of the content in CRM, so in critical raw materials, of 2 strategic value chains. One is batteries, the other one is electric light vehicles. That has attracted a lot of attention. Many people are looking into those pages. They can, let's say, play with the information there, see trends up to 2040 and all these kind of things. So it's a lot of information also on secondary raw materials in that part of the story. But the real boom came with the application on Ukraine. We have started to provide briefings on the main, let's say, raw materials that are subject to potential disruptions in trade with Russia, Belarus, Ukraine because of the war. And we already put forward a briefing on potash, briefing on titanium metal. These days will appear the one on coke and coal. And we already provided a larger report on Russia, focusing on the trade between EU and Russia. And we will continue this with Belarus and Ukraine as well.
Okay, thank you so much. We will continue this debate and the discussion, and thank you for mentioning several titles of raw materials that are in question. I hear potash, titanium, and you've said that there are reports coming on other materials as well. We do apologize for technical inconveniences we've experienced with Maria again, but we will now go back to her and have the pleasure of hearing and seeing her presentation. Maria, we are with you. Thank you for rejoining.
Hey, 𝗖𝗹𝘂𝘀𝗁, sorry, I got kicked out. So actually, when did I got cut off at the very beginning? Yes.
We heard the first slide where you said that legislation is being prepared, but you're not sure about the scope and of any dates that are coming.
All right, very good. Okay, so let us go to slide number 3, please. No, it is before. It is the green and digital transition. That one. Thank you very much. So we know the urgency for addressing climate change, and Europe is the most ambitious continent in the world when it comes to the path to a net zero future. The European Green Deal is our plan on how to achieve this. Our Fit for 55 proposals set out ambitious targets, and our 2020 industrial strategy support the twin transition of our industries. So to make the European Green Deal happen and roll out the clean technologies, we need access to much more sustainable raw materials, in particular critical raw materials from both extraction and recycled sources, as you see here. And to give you some examples, EU demand for the raw materials used in wind turbines, particularly rare earths in permanent magnets, is expected to increase by up to 6 times in 2030 and up to 15 times by 2050. And driven by e-mobility, EU demand in 2050 for graphite is estimated to increase 14 times and nickel 3 times more by 2050. I also want to mention the electrification, which is another facet of the net zero society. So when mobility, heating, industrial processes go electric, expanding the electricity grid will need to follow. And this will drive demand for copper, which is the base metal with the highest estimated growth rate by 2050. So we carried out a lot of analysis on the strategic dependencies. In 2021 and 2022, we looked more closely at rare earths that I already mentioned. We looked at magnesium, chemicals, photovoltaics, cybersecurity technologies. So in short, we have built the knowledge and we know well that many value chains in our economy are exposed to supply risk disruptions and strategic dependencies. So what is needed to improve the situation? I already mentioned that we are intensifying our work and the preparations are ongoing for this legislative proposal. But we have already taken action. If you can go to slide 4, please. Thank you. When we published the 2020 critical raw materials list, we put forward 10 actions to strengthen sustainable supply on 3 strategic fronts. So it's about higher circularity of raw materials, sustainable mining in the EU, and responsible sourcing from a range of like-minded, resource-rich third countries. So regarding the recycling that goes back into production, for many base metals, we have a satisfactory, a good level that goes back into production. But as concerns the innovation critical raw materials, this is not the case. There is a large gap to fill. And we will close this gap through different measures. Regulation is one. If you can go to slide 5, please. Thank you. We have put forward the batteries regulation, and this will ensure that batteries placed on the EU market are sustainable and safe throughout their entire life cycle. We use a stepwise approach with increased recycling and material recovery targets over time to allow for large volumes to reach end of life by 2030, 2035. Our proposal includes cobalt, lithium, nickel, and lead, but it is now with co-legislators, so this is under discussion, and we hope that we will have an adoption by the legislators end of this year or the first quarter of next year. There is also the Eco Design for Sustainable Products regulation. And this is about setting new requirements to make products more durable, easier to maintain and recycle. The waste shipment regulation of last year will further promote the secondary raw materials market in Europe. There is the Waste Electrical and Electronic Equipment Directive and the End-of-Life Vehicles Directive, which was to draw a link to the presentation by Monolithos on the recycling of platinum group metals. And here, measures for increased circularity could be proposed. Besides regulation, another thing that we are doing is that we are mapping the domestic potential in the EU for primary and secondary raw materials in Europe. I already mentioned the investments that we do through Horizon Europe, which of course is an important incentive for promoting sustainable mining in the EU in terms of automation and related items. But what evidence shows is that higher circularity alone will not be enough to cover the demand that is needed for the transition. We will still be needing access to primary raw materials as well. And to strengthen, and Europe has good potential of increasing its capacity here. And to strengthen the framework conditions for sustainable mining in the EU, we have done a number of things. If you can go to slide 6, please. Thank you. This is, we have one important thing that has a lot of impact on an extraction and processing project is the permitting process. And we have analyzed how environmental permitting processes could be made more streamlined and predictable. We think that that is a very important input. It was a JRC study published last year. And the Horizon Europe investments I have already mentioned. And here you also see the EU principles for sustainable raw materials that we published last year. This is a non-mandatory set of principles that is based on the existing sustainability legislation in the EU. And we developed these principles together with industry, member states, stakeholders. And we welcome mining companies to sign up to these voluntary principles when developing mining activities in Europe, showcasing the way in which extraction, processing, recycling in the EU is strictly regulated at European level as well as at national level, ensuring a very high degree of environmental protection and performance. So for this, reach out to us. My email was on the first slide, which I hope that Nina and colleagues could share with you. Regarding strategic partnerships, you may have heard that we have established one with Canada, and we see an important stream of investments coming out of this partnership, and this is only the beginning, and we are continuing this path with other third country partners. How could I mention still the need access to funding, or do you want me to close up?
If you could very briefly mention the access to funding.
Okay.
And then
yes, okay. So if you can just go to the next slide, this is very important. The EIB, the European Investment Bank, has adjusted its energy lending policy, specifically stating that it will support projects relating to the supply of critical raw materials. Yes. And then we have the EBRD, the Bank for Reconstruction and Development, which has approved an extractive mining industries strategy offering support. There is the Invest EU agreement on an EU budget guarantee of 19.65 billion euro to support investment projects that include critical raw materials across Europe. And then there is state aid, there is the Recovery and Resilience Facility, there is the Innovation Fund. So if you can go to the final slide, please. Thank you very much. I want to say that we work closely with member states, with industry, academia, with civil society organizations, with social partners, through the expert group Raw Material Supply Group, and through the European Innovation Partnership for Raw Materials. And please note that we have the annual event, the Raw Materials Week, which this year is running between the 14th to 7th of November. Don't miss out. Thank you very much for your attention. Sorry about the technical hiccup, and I hope you have a very good continuation of this cluster meeting. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to present a little bit the EU policy for.
Thank you, Maria. Would you have time for one short question?
Yes, sure. Yes.
I wanted to ask you, because you have mentioned that the legislative package is only coming up. You have also said that there are some things that the European Commission is already doing. For example, the batteries regulation, eco-design sustainable products regulation, waste shipment regulation. These are all dated 2020, 2021. I just wanted to ask you, after Russia launched a war on Ukraine in 2022, how much of an update did these documents require?
I would say that it has the analysis on the situation, on how vulnerable we are and how exposed we are to being dependent on a limited number of market-dominating countries, that has been further aggravated by the Russian invasion. And you know that this is the reason why we came out with REPowerEU as a proposal on how to get away from the Russian dependence on the energy side. So I would say that what was already installed and has been further accelerated, and we. Of course, it is also it is not only the fact that as Konstantin, I heard some part raising how important Russia is as a supplier of many raw materials, including critical raw materials, and also Ukraine and Belarus. So for sure, this has consequences on our value chains. And I also want to mention that I mentioned the strategic partnership with Canada, but we also have the first partnership that we concluded was with Ukraine, and that was last summer. Now, of course, given the situation, this is not the time for getting into investments, building on this partnership, but we think that as we must believe in a cessation of the hostility, we must believe in an end of that, and towards that end, this partnership that we have already in place with Ukraine, we think it can be an important lever in rebuilding the Ukrainian economy, and it is really it can be an important item there. So I would say that it has further accelerated the trend that we have seen, and the situation that we are in now is that we have a clear mandate. We have an expectation to deliver, to come up with a legislative proposal that will improve the situation and reduce the strategic dependencies.
Maria, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. And we will now move back to the panel debate and give the floor to the two remaining speakers that have not spoken yet. And I want to give the floor to Christina and give her 1 minute and ask her specifically what your organization is doing? Where do you experience disruption with critical raw materials?
Thank you very much for inviting for this debate and this discussion. And I would like to highlight that I'm not here as a representative of my own company, but representative of the 𝗬𝗓𝗄 Mining Industry and Global Value Chain Partnership, which is getting together collaboration of 15 mining regions, aiming to strengthen the regional and interregional innovation capacity in the related of these investments and growth and employment in the mining industry. And actually, we have a background of long collaboration already since 2013. We start and through the different projects and initiatives, we also launched this 𝗬𝗓𝗄 partnership, and it is a partnership of regions, actually the core mining regions of the Europe at the moment, from Finland, Sweden, Portugal, Spain, Greek, France, and the UK. And of course, I have to mention here as well that the Ministry of Energy of Ukraine signed a partnership a bit more than 1 year ago. So we have them on board as well. And what do we do is simply that because, as you all know, that you have to mine where the deposits are and where the minerals are. So it means that this mining industry is very much regional level and happening regional level, and involves the regional authorities, regional stakeholders, and regional industries as well. And very often it's very challenging for the regions and how to deal with these issues. But at the same time, of course, it's a possibility and opportunities. And what we are doing here is that we are focusing on supporting the development of these regional mining hubs, which could be the cluster-based operations or networks or university-led collaborations. So the partnership active stakeholders from the regions are very heterogeneous and developing quite strongly the joint projects. And for example, the 𝗬𝗂𝘀𝗀𝗿, what was introduced earlier, is the one of delivery of this collaboration as well. And then, of course, what we want to do basically is that how to bring this global business more near into the regional concept and how to develop these regional and interregional value chains involving the regional SMEs, which we have a very good examples, for example, from the Finland and Sweden, that how it can really provide it added value and actually be the kind of breeding ground for totally new kind of SME development in the regions. But maybe more about that in the debate. And you had a question already at the moment, or?
Yeah, maybe you could identify the most critical materials.
Okay, what are for us in our territory? Okay, cobalt. 20 biggest cobalt deposits, out of those 14 are in Finland and Sweden. And out of those 14, 12 biggest deposits are in the territory of East and North Finland, and 2 in the northern Sweden. And only 2 of those at the moment are as a part of the existing mines. So it means that these are the deposits which are under process and a kind of project stage at the moment, if I could say on that way. Then let's talk about the graphites. At the moment, if you look to northern Sweden, the Kiruna, the biggest iron mine in globally, they could actually produce at the moment 30% of the needs of graphites in the European level if the processes are developed. And these are just the examples we have. And then if you think about the strategic minerals as well, the biggest iron deposits are in the northern territory in our case. And I believe that my colleague Luis will tell more about the Portuguese case at the moment. But these are just as a few examples. And then if you go the other rare earth minerals, you can actually find those quite a lot from the tailings and from the side streams as well of existing mines as well. And that's the one very important issue. What we are highlighting is the topic called remining. When we talk about the circular economy, it has to start from the very beginning. At the moment when you dig the first hole in the ground, have to be the beginning of the circular economy practices as well, because most of the minerals goes hand in hand with some specific other minerals, and now we have to have a really develop this bigger view of mining, not just to concentrate on the one mineral, because often there are the others as well there.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's move to Louis and hear his introduction.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for the invitation and for the opportunity. I just start with this slide about our cluster. So in the left side of the slide, you can see what our main objective. So promote knowledge and sustainable economic value for mineral resources. And especially I will strengthen the last one, stimulate intercompany and interinstitutional cooperation. So what we are doing from some years ago is trying to strengthen the cooperation between industry and academia, and like that to improve the performance, the economical, environment and social performance of our companies. So today we have not 22 members, because yesterday we had 2 newcomers, so we had 84 members. Many of them are small and medium companies, but we also have some large companies. But also we have the most important academic and research institutions in Portugal, leading with mineral raw materials. So that's the way that we are working, trying to improve the sustainability of our industry and trying to contribute to, like Vice President 𝗧𝗹𝘂𝘀𝘀 said some time ago, contribute to a strategical autonomy in mineral raw materials in Europe. That's one of the lessons learned from the war between Ukraine and Russia, is how dangerous is to be dependent on a region or a country which has a very high geopolitical risk, and we should not do that. The principles of the Raw Materials Initiative are more present than ever, and we must work all together. And I used to say there is a magical triangle between the Commission, but also between member states and between the regions, because like Christina said, the regions are a fundamental piece of this process, because it's in the regions that we produce primary and secondary mineral raw materials. So we must work all together for achieving that goal of having a strategic autonomy and for having secure and sustainable mineral value chains. That's all for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. What specific cooperation you would say, Louis, is missing mostly? Who is not doing their job properly? Where is this missing?
Yes, I can say that the Commission has, in the last months, years, trying to push the governments to increase their domestic production, both in primary and secondary raw materials. But unfortunately, that is not happening in several member states. So I think that's an important bottleneck, and we should work more closely between the Commission, the member states, and once more, I strengthen the importance of working also with the regions. That's one of the pieces that are missing. I know that the Commission is working in something like a Minerals Act, and trying to push the member states to have more favorable politics to mineral raw materials. For instance, in Portugal, we have several problems related with permitting, both in exploration and exploitation. companies are waiting a long time for tenders, a long time for environmental impact studies approval. So we really need that the Commission push countries like ours to have to solve those problems of permitting and other problems that we have related with mineral resources industry. So I know that's not easy because we have the principle of subsidiarity that we should respect. But I really hope that the Commission will come with something, maybe in the second part of these years, and like that push the governments to have more favorable politics to our industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Would you agree that we should work more closely, the Commission and the member states and the regions as well?
Yes, I definitely agree, and I would even stronger highlight that Commission should also come directly into the regions, because if we think about them, we have mechanisms for that. We have clusters, we have smart specialization, which is all based in the regional level and works in the region. And what we actually see as a very problematic now in the north is that there are a lot of different decisions and policies made, and then it's not coming into the ground level really at the same time, and actually the number of different challenges could be solved if we just discuss around the same table. And I would just like to highlight here, for example, that in everywhere the social acceptance is highlighted, and of course it is important topic because it is, because of the history, it's quite scary to have mine next to your garden or on your backyard. But at the same time, we are totally forgetting all the development what has been going on. And actually to discuss about these things together in the regional level would be crucial. But then at the same time, Commission should come down to the regions to see already what has been done, because we worked very closely, and even the industry in the regional level works very closely in this discussion and trying to find the solutions. But there is something missing between. So definitely I agree. And of course we can make a big difference maybe for the national permitting if the message could come together from the region to direction of the national governments as well. Of course, this is always the country-based situation.
Konstantin, would you have anything to comment on the cooperation? We need your microphone on.
I think that Maria, in her presentation, already touched very well the efforts done lately in order to make the things work in collaboration, at least within the European Union. So all the new alliances, the partnerships that were developed in the last, what to say, 3-4 years, you know, they are saying a lot on what the Commission is doing, and is essential. I'm coming back even to the spread of knowledge. It was needed some 2 decades ago, or let's say in the moment when the raw material initiative appeared, it was needed to have an integrated system of information. Now, collaboration is increasing the communication between the partners, is increasing the awareness and everything. So it's essential actually to do things together in a period in which Europe is under risk. I would not say under attack or something, under risk. Why? Because we are the largest consumer in the world, sometimes the second largest after China, but we definitely have a problem with the supply. So, and that's, you know, somehow bringing in the issue of, you know, security of supply, why some raw materials are critical or sensitive or whatever and so on. So, but I leave it to you to continue that.
Okay, we have stressed, and several speakers have mentioned the danger of, you know, Europe being dependent on one specific country, on third world countries, as Maria has said, on critical materials. Let us see what the efforts are in Europe to increase material and resource productivity. And maybe I could ask Christina and Luis to mention what your organizations are doing in terms of projects or activities to make raw materials supply chain more sustainable and resilient. Luis, let's start with you now.
Thank you very much. I give you an example, a very recent example of that. In Portugal, we started last year a process related with our plan of recovery and resilience. And our cluster was deeply involved in the preparation of a proposal related with Dimension Stone. So we received the good news end of last year that our proposal was approved. I think that's a very important tool that the European Union make available for us. 50 projects were approved in several different thematics. Ours will allow our companies, again, working together with academia and with research institutions, to have several actions that will allow them to being more digital, being more green, being more automated, being more decarbonized. So that agenda, that project that was approved was built with more than 50 different partners, as more than 50 different actions, will allow us to develop this project until 2026. And I think that's one of the tools, like I said before, that was, and it is very important, not only to have a sustainable and secure supply of raw materials, but also to have a much more green industry like we are seeing in several projects all over Europe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christina.
That was Luis. Okay, yeah, thank you.
Christina, the floor is yours now.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I will give another kind of example and following up, because as a thematic partnership, of course, we would like to be we develop the interregional collaboration, but interregional collaboration, of course, can be based, function only if you have a very strong regions who are running the collaboration. And therefore, as a thematic partnership, we are focusing very much on that, strengthening the regional pillars. Like Luis gave the example how they have been doing in Portugal. And if I bring another kind of example from Finland, what we do at the moment, and it's going on in Sweden as well, is that how do we strengthen the regional innovation ecosystem in the relation of mining industries? And that's a very challenging, because the practical example, there is one big project going on in the relation of phosphate and nickel, but it has a 500-kilometer distance to the nearest innovation hub. And there's just one road between. So how to actually find the solutions and how to make it happen in practice, and what is the role of the regions there? And then as a part of our smart specialization strategies in all East and North Finland regions who are entitled with the mining industry, not all of them, and I know also for the case on the Northern Sweden, Norrbotten and Västerbotten, that they are very strongly focusing on that also in the smart specialization strategies, not to develop the big company itself, but to develop the innovation ecosystem, which is enabling local SMEs to be active on this value chain and to find the solutions for the big companies, because that's the part of the policy what the big companies also have, that they would like to subcontract the local companies. And for local companies to answer to that possibility, they need the backup. So very grassroots level collaboration actually. But I would like to tell here what is a really big challenge at the moment is the infrastructure, because you have to develop massive infrastructure. And if you go into Arctic conditions to develop and build the road, it needs much more effort because of the frost and the rush weather conditions, which are changing from -35 to +30 between. So it's a very demanding for the infrastructure solutions, and that is definitely something with what we are now thinking and talking, that how we actually can communicate about that one. And this is a very important message what we can also bring to direction of the European Commission, that there are big things where we don't have resources enough to tackle, but we can communicate about these challenges and open the dialogue about this, that how we can solve this together, because there won't be mine if you don't have an infrastructure for that.
Thank you so much, Christina, for raising this other issue, infrastructure. Let's pay attention to that. But I want to also go back to Konstantin and raise the question about the efforts in Europe to increase material and resource productivity. What would your comment be?
Okay, thank you. First of all, thanks to Luis and Christina for raising the issues, because there are extremely valid points here already mentioned. I'm thinking the question was on how to increase material and resource productivity. On one hand, I am tempted to answer, we cannot fight against the truth of economics. Europe has a huge disadvantage in terms of how quickly and how efficient they can raise productivity of materials, of resources generally, just because we know very well that with our well-being, we are not exactly the most competitive, at least in terms of one of the factors of production, which is the work labor force and its cost. Yeah. So this we will never give up, and we shouldn't, because it's our wealth. Yeah. However, where we have to do the efforts is on technology side. It's on technological progress. It's where we have the advantage in the world, and this is innovation skills, financing possibilities of research, and so on. And this is actually what happened in the last 10 years, more and more, and we saw it with the financing of many projects in the area of also technological development. This is one thing. The other thing is, I want to stress on the last point made by Christina on infrastructure. Please look at the geography of Europe. It's tremendous. I mean, how can you really ensure a efficient transportation between different parts of Europe when Europe has this shape? Yeah. This is a major challenge, and we have to respond. We have to respond with local solution, often with exactly small and medium enterprise solutions that are having their scope of activity dedicated to offer solutions for improving efficiency. And then it's the matter of trade. I mean, Europe is the big trader in the world, the biggest, yeah? And we still claim, and very well that we claim that and that we support, that free trade agreements should be the line. What we see recently in the world is that most of the countries are going back to protectionism, to barriers to trade, and so on. What should Europe do? Should we give up as well? I don't think this is the answer, and I don't think that this is the answer of our policymakers in the field. The answer may be here to find the real solutions and to look to all kinds of measures to protect a normal trade around the world. And when I say normal trade, is to look also of aspects like environment, social conditions when we do trade. And this is where Europe has done tremendous efforts lately. I'm just giving the so often mentioned thing of due diligence, responsible sourcing requirements, the environmental requirements, now combined maybe with the measures on increasing secondary production of raw materials, the importance of acknowledging the content of scarce resources in some products and so on. So there are measures to be taken that may improve not necessarily the productivity, because this is difficult, I'm going back to the initial thing, but at least our competitiveness in the world.
But you have mentioned technology. I want to take up on that for a while longer. How far would you say is the industry and is the market, actually is the market ready for existing technological solutions? Louis, maybe you want to take that.
Yes, thank you. Actually, I was thinking about an idea that I had some time ago. When we speak about technology and about innovation, it's what we really need today and yesterday and tomorrow for improve our competitiveness. So maybe it makes sense to have a European cluster on mineral raw materials. And that European cluster, it's a new institution, but formed with old institutions, old clusters, because it's just not in Portugal that we have a cluster dedicated to mineral resources. We have several examples all over Europe, like in Spain, like in France, like in Germany, like in Sweden, like in Finland, with the same objectives. Let's say strength collaboration between industry and academia, and like that to improve our technological capacity in the mineral resources industry. So I leave you with this proposal, maybe with the support of the Commission, working together with the member states and with the regions again, maybe we can think in having that European cluster on mineral raw materials. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christina. What would you have to say on the technological involvement?
I just have to say that I love so much about the idea what Louis just presented, because that is something that actually could combine also that what Konstantin also said earlier about how to support the kind of capability of the regional SMEs, because they have very often developed the solutions already. And when it comes to the technological capability as such, it depends, of course, in which level you talk. Do you mean about the big mining companies or those who are providing the solutions for them? And I believe that the technology is there. Several ET collaboration which were approved lately are dealing with these robotics and all automatization of the mining industry. So it's there, and lots of it's going on. But then actually that how we can actually use and how we actually make the joint effort for better use of all these available technologies. I think that what Louis just said about this European cluster in this relation would be excellent idea, and actually we have a good foundation for that in our thematic partnership, because all these core clusters are partners in that partnership as well, and that will actually be the tool also which will then integrate the regions into this European level big debate, and all these mechanisms which were said earlier by Maria and also others to be fair. There are different ERMAs and others like that, but how they really operate in the regional level is another question.
I do encourage everybody to ask questions. You can do that in the Q&A. You can also raise your hand and speak out. This is the opportunity that some of you have used. I mean, typing your questions, and we will soon move to them. But I want to, first of all, go back to Konstantin. I'm not sure if you're the right person in the Commission, but the idea has been raised by Louis and very much encouraged by Christina, the new cluster. Does that make sense? Does that sound encouraging to you? Is that something that would solve some problems?
Yeah, thanks for giving me the floor on this. Of course, we are not the right persons to say yes or no, because we are not the decision takers. We are not even policy makers, but we are, I could say that, influencers based on our research work, but mostly based on the fact that we are collecting a lot of information about results in Europe done by the private sector, in particular in the field of, technological progress, ideas of how to move on to efficiency in this area. And when I say in this area, I'm not talking only about production, mineral extraction, and so on, so primary. I'm not talking only about secondary process recycling, treatment of waste, and so on. I'm talking about the entire life cycle of the products on a value chain or on a supply chain of the raw materials. Because this is the whole concept. I would advocate for solutions that increase the circularity, the sustainability, and the security of the raw materials that we are using in our economy. And here comes my answer. Sorry for this long introduction. Here comes my answer. I am not sure to be a partisan of a cluster on all minerals, or on an idea like it is now with the new Commission and its priorities on industrial ecosystems. Why? I will explain why. And I say I'm not a partisan of that or that. I'm not allowed to as a researcher, let's say. When we look at industrial ecosystems, then Europe can phrase clearly, state clearly its priorities. Because this is Europe, this is our industry, this is our economy that we have now and we had since hundreds of years ago. Yeah, our interest is on steel industry. No matter what China does, no matter, we are still strong. We are the second largest world producers and the second largest world consumer of steel products. And in some parts of this steel industry, for some products that are have high technological content, we are clearly on top of everything. Can we afford to lose such an advantage? No. We have to concentrate on some industries where we are strong. Are we strong worldwide in the car industry? Yes, we are. We have to keep. So concentrating on several sectors may give a better answer than concentrating on all minerals, trying to restart production of all minerals and so on. This is just an idea. A second part is here, indeed, in some cases, maybe there could be efforts of rebringing the production inside Europe, ensuring a little bit of more security. But the main possibility, the main option to increase the security of raw materials that are scarce for Europe remains in, again, where we have an advantage already. The rate of recycling. We are the best recyclers in the world. And there are many raw materials in which we are the best recyclers in the world. We have to continue this. And this is where the last latest policies are concentrating on finding solutions on how to increase also the technological processes of ensuring that the recycling rate of certain critical raw materials is really going up.
Thank you. Carla has reacted to what everybody was saying about the new cluster, saying does European raw materials cluster that Louis proposed not exist in the EIT raw materials already? And she gave a link, and we give Louis the floor to briefly react to that. Louis, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the question. I really don't think so. There is a problem with the EIT raw materials, which is also the problem with the European Raw Materials Alliance. They are really not working with the member states and with the regions. And that's an important issue, because without those partners, we cannot achieve practical results. So it's very nice to produce reports, to develop some projects, but without the impact that we must have in the terrain, we will not get practical results and will not improve our productivity in Europe. Thank you.
Thank you, Louis. We have questions coming in from the audience. I do remind everybody that there are still several minutes to raise your questions, either live or on chat. And we have one from Alexandre, who is probably saying that regarding possibilities in raw materials with Ukraine, is there a contact point in relation with the EU Commission, and who are they? Konstantin, would you be able to answer this one in terms of a contact point in relation with the EU Commission, possibilities in raw materials with Ukraine?
Yes, I think that the answer lies between the two policy DGs that are, let's say, main responsible for the area and for the group of countries. And I would say DG Grow and DG Trade. So who exactly to contact for DG Grow is easy. If you go to the unit on raw materials and industrial costs, or to the Directorate for Industrial Ecosystems, then you should find there. I do not know exactly now. I could try to find out, but now I cannot say who exactly is responsible, because there are rules of contacts and so on. And in DG Trade, it's the same thing. There is a unit inside the Directorate that is specialized on raw materials trade. And there are the two contact points that may give a flavor on that. Not to mention that, according to me, there is a lot recently, because we are speaking about security of supply and risks. There is a lot in DG DEFIS, so the Defense and Space Directorate General, to also answer your question. So I would go in that direction.
I will ask everybody to very briefly say preferably a one-word answer to a wrap-up of this discussion. We have mentioned several solutions to not only solve the disruption of critical raw materials, but in general increase the efforts in Europe to increase material and resource productivity. And we have mentioned the possibility of a new raw materials cluster, more cooperation between member states and the Commission was said, Commission maybe going to regions, infrastructure as a problem was mentioned, technological processes should be improved. What else that we have not mentioned yet, but we can summarize in one word and say what else should be done to improve the situation? Louis, let's start with you.
Muted.
We will ask you to unmute your microphone, please. Thank you so much.
Excuse me. Now I'm unmute. So very briefly, and just an example what I think that we should do. When we speak about dependencies, when we speak about disruptions, we need to really develop some mineral resources flow studies. And not only at national scale, but also at European one. Without that, it will be difficult to understand what is really critical and how dangerous are our dependencies in short, medium, and long term. Like I said before, the principles of the raw materials initiative are more important than ever. That means that we should have a balance between domestic production, between the minerals that we can get from trade, from fair and trade and clear trade, and also the minerals that we can get, the secondary minerals that we can get from recycling and from reusing. So all those measures should be supported with these flow studies. Those are very important, and I think that's one of the measures that we should develop in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Luis. Before I give the floor to Christina and Konstantin for their last points, I can see that there's a hand raised by Eva, and we give her the floor for a very brief period of time. Eva, I think we can see you, or we cannot hear you yet, but we want to give the floor to you. If you could unmute yourself, this would be easy. Eva, yes.
No, thank you very much, Ți𝗹𝘂. Please continue with the discussion. I'll come just before the end. Thank you.
Okay, Christina, what would your final point be?
Okay, something what hasn't been mentioned. Okay, one of my favorite child in this communication is to talk about the synergic, complementarity and blending financing approaches, what was launched by the European Commission, highlighting that European Regional Development Fund should be synergized together with 14 different funding activity programs of European Commission. That is done in the paper and it's nicely written in the documents, but how to make it happen in reality? It is there in the Horizon Europe that you should find the complementarity from the regional level, but it goes all from up to down. And I think that in this debate, and particularly in this sector, we should really turn it another way around and go into the regions. And when they are developing the smart specialization strategies and other regional strategies, that how they could actually complement and how to find the matching from this synergic funding and the blending financing, really to develop the real cases, real investment plans, to develop those together. But it cannot be done regions alone. It cannot be done by the research institution alone, or IT raw material alone, or big industry alone. It has to be done together. And we should sit together around the same table and just see how to make it happen in real. And the clusters are the one who play the key role in this game. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christina. Konstantin, a last final word to you.
Yeah, so the very good point, Christina. I fully share this again. The collaborative, the partnership. You know, private-public partnerships are absolutely necessary. The organization associations are extremely welcome. I want to stress on one thing here is the fact that in terms of what we have to focus on, again, I'm saying it's not only on the primary part, on the minerals, on the initial part of the supply chains of raw materials. What we see now in the world is we have to react immediately to a ban or an increase of taxes of tariffs from US on aluminum and steel. Then after 2 years, we see China blocking magnesium, and there is a jump of prices, a crazy jump of prices of magnesium. Then we see Ukraine war starting. And are we only reacting? No. So I will stress on the need of having a good system of information about raw materials, especially critical raw materials, sensitive, strategic raw materials, and on the need of doing a little bit of foresight, of modeling for the future, of advanced thinking, where will be our problems. And I think here is a need to concentrate in the next future in order to bring these things clearly in front of us. And then my second point is on, indeed, what can we do to increase recycling, secondary raw materials, and so on. And here already the Commission started to work exactly on specific strategic sectors. The battery regulation is clear. The future electric light vehicle revision is clear. We are trying to improve things on this side. And the main parts are to monitor the presence of CRM in products, then to think of the new product policies to implement as much as possible circular strategies. I'm thinking here of, maybe most of you heard already about the potential product passport that will allow us to check on one side the content of the product in raw materials, yeah, but also to see, you know, if the conditions of social and environmental criteria are met. And not the last thing, to develop, to finance, mainly, as I said already, the recycling technologies. So yeah, that would be my last thought.
Thank you, everybody, for your last final points. Let us hear from Nina Hopman again about the funding opportunities before we wrap up for good.
Thank you very much, 𝗬𝗏, and thank you very much to all the speakers for the excellent points that you've made during this discussion. Let me just quickly present some funding opportunities that are currently open and that might be interesting for you. So we go to the first one, that is a call open from the European Innovation Council, 20 million support for Ukrainian startups. So this is a call that we wanted to communicate to you because the European Commission has launched this action to support Ukrainian innovation community. And this initiative will support at least 200 Ukrainian deep tech startups with up to 60,000 each to enhance the capacity to interact with European innovation ecosystem, to enter new markets, and to benefit from European funding instruments. The deadline for this call is the 7th of September. There is an info day on the 24th of June, so the day after tomorrow, so you can have a look if you're interested. And the information is published on the website and on the link shared in the chat. The next one related to raw material is the EIT Raw Materials Business Plan 2023-2025. The call has the objective to have a relevant and appropriate raw materials business plan implementation from the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, and to implement the knowledge and innovation community's multi-annual strategy. And we want to address the EIT raw materials target social challenges and the knowledge triangle integration to achieve future high-level results and impact for the EIT impact framework. This is a call until the 28th of September under Horizon, and you find the link in the chat. And there's a call open for sustainable processing and refining of battery-grade graphite, the batteries partnerships. We've heard about that there are problems in production, and this could be a call that is interesting because there are only some existing mining of natural graphene in Europe. So this would be scaling of these sources for the active material needs in Europe. And the outcomes of the projects proposed to this call would to be decreased dependencies of Europe on imported battery-grade graphite and to reduce carbon and environmental emissions. The deadline for this call is the 6th of September, also under the Horizon Europe Framework Program, and the link is in the chat. And there is a funding opportunity open from a cluster partnership from Amulet for the advanced minerals, materials and manufacturing technologies, United for Lightweight. This is a project that aims to exploit the innovation for advanced lightweight materials and to create cross-regional, cross-sectorial and knowledge exchange between SMEs. And this funding will grant SMEs with a lump sum of up to 120,000 per project. And the call is open until the 30th of June. You can find information, the link here you see in the screen, or in the link shared in the chat. That from us, for the funding opportunities, and we would like to announce the next EU Clusters talk that will take place on the 6th of July. Fitter for the Future, Building Resilience and Preparedness in Europe's Pharma and Healthcare Sectors. So we will look at crisis preparedness, we will talk about healthcare and life science sectors, and to see where we stand and how prepared we are for the future. So we hope you can tune in also on the 6th of July. Thank you, and back to you, 𝗬𝗲, for the final word.
Thank you so much. I just remind everybody that the next talks, as Nina has said, are on the 6th of July. And I also remind everybody to register on the European Cluster Collaboration Platform if you haven't done so already. And I really want to thank everybody for your attention today, all of the speakers for their insightful thoughts, for their active participation, every participant. And till next time, thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you.